Hello and welcome to Mind Shifters Radio. I'm Tim Hayes. I'm your host for the first hour, and today is a Tuesday, December 9th, 2025. As always, we're grateful to everyone who's joining us here today, whether you're listening live or through the archives, as we spend another couple of hours teaching and supporting people in using some of the most powerful, effective, efficient, and accessible tools I've ever encountered. These tools are available absolutely free through the tireless efforts of Dr. Michael and Jeanie Ryce on the website at whyagain.org. If you go to that webpage and click on the two words that say Start Here in the upper left-hand corner, it will take you to a page where you can download and read Chapter 24 of Dr. Michael Ryce's book. His book is titled, Why Is This Happening to Me Again? And that chapter of the book contains a narrative description and explanation of the primary tool in this work. That tool is called the Reality Management Worksheet, sometimes called the Reality Management Wake-Up Sheet. And it's a tool I've been using to great effect to improve the quality of my life and most of my relationships for over 21 years now. And I've also used it to turn any negative emotional state I have these days into part of the infallible guidance system that each and every one of us has been given. From that webpage, you can also download the actual worksheet process itself. It's a simple PDF file. It's available for you to click the link, download it, print it off, copy it as often as you'd like, and use it over and over again absolutely free. From that same web page, you can download a whole host of audio files of shows just like this one, where people have been stepped through the worksheet process, and if you choose to listen to them even repeatedly, they can serve as a powerful tutorial for you to help you get maximum benefit from these tools in the shortest amount of time possible. You can also download go to your app store and type in the three words HeartLand Aramaic Forgiveness. And if you choose to do that before you're done typing the word forgiveness, you'll see the glowing heart icon. If you tap on it, it will let you download a completely free and private app that contains the Reality Management Worksheet. It also contains an abbreviated version of that Reality Management Worksheet process. And it contains a copy of the Drag-On Kling-On game, which is a wonderful way to introduce these tools to even younger audiences. And we hope people do all of that soon and often, primarily because it tends to improve the quality of people's lives the more they actively apply these tools in their lives. And secondarily, because it tends to prompt comments, questions, answers, and testimonials. If you have any of those to share with us, we'd appreciate you doing so. You can give us send us an email. You can email me at tjh@mindshifters-academy.org, or you can email Jeanie at jeanie@whyagain.org. That's whyagain.org. And if we get a question or a comment, testimonial from you, we'll address it on the internet show. And then as time allows, send you a notification about what day and time that occurred so you can listen back to the archives for your feedback or input. And we greatly appreciate when everybody does that because it makes it infinitely easier for us to live into our intention with this work. The intention we have with this work is to be of service, and that's just boatloads easier to do when we know how these things are landing for you. The other thing that I like to try and mention in the intro is we're here live on most weekdays from 11 a.m. till noon Central Time, and you can join us by going to zoom.us, and once there, just tell it that you want to enter a meeting, and the meeting ID number for this first hour is 853-2357-4173. 853-2357-4173. And if you enter through the phone lines, when you enter, you'll be automatically muted. and you can use *6 to unmute yourself. And we hope you take advantage of that and speak up soon and often, because it provides us the guidance we need to be able to have a better chance at living into our intention, which is to be of service. So we had discussion yesterday and processing on a worksheet with Celinda yesterday, and we didn't get to any of the reading from the Krishnamurti book that I had started last week. So, as I start to read from the Krishnamurti book, please remember, we welcome questions and comments, even if it seems to be that I'm in the middle of reading something or on a roll in a monologue. The next section of this book, which is basically just the transcript of conversations that Krishnamurti had with people who were coming to him for counseling, and some narrative descriptions of the town or the countryside, just to emphasize, to help people into this observational mode, which Krishnamurti would invite us into as an essential for being alive and awake in the moment. So this next section is titled The Fear of Inner Solitude. And the book reads, "How necessary it is to die each day, to die each minute to everything, to the many yesterdays and to the moment that has just gone by. Without death, there is no renewing. Without death, there is no creation. The burden of the past gives birth to its own continuity, and the worry of yesterday gives life to the new worry of today. So the burden of the past gives birth to its own continuity, and the worry of yesterday gives rise to the worry of today. Yesterday perpetuates today, and tomorrow is still yesterday. There is no release from this continuity except in death. In dying, there is joy. This new morning, fresh and clear, is free from the light and darkness of yesterday. The song of that bird is heard for the first time, and the noise of those children is not that of yesterday. We carry the memory of yesterday, and it darkens our being. As long as the mind is the mechanical machine of memory, it knows no rest, no quietude, no silence. It is ever wearing itself out. That which is still can be reborn, but not a thing that is in constant activity and wears out and is useless. The wellspring is in ending, and death is as near as life. She said she had studied for a number of years with one of the famous psychologists and had been analyzed by him, which had taken considerable time. Though she had been brought up as a Christian and had also studied Hindu philosophy and its teachers, she had never joined any particular group or associated herself with any system of thought. As always, she was still dissatisfied and had even put aside the psychoanalysis. And now she was engaged in some kind of welfare work. She had been married and had known all the misfortunes of family life as well as its joys. She had taken refuge in various ways, in social prestige, in work, in money. and in the warm delight of this country by the blue sea. Sorrows had multiplied, which she could bear, but she had never been able to go beyond a certain depth, and it was not very deep. Almost everything is shallow and soon comes to an end, only to begin again with a further shallowness. The inexhaustible is not to be discovered through any activity of the mind. I have gone from one activity to another, from one misfortune to another, always being driven and always pursuing. Now that I've reached the end of one urge, and before I follow another, will you carry me on for a number of years, or before I start another interest, another activity or venture, which will carry me on for a number of years? I've acted on a stronger impulse, and so here I am, talking to you, Krishnamurti. I've had a good life, gay and rich, meaning happy and wealthy. I've been interested in many things and have studied certain subjects fairly deeply, yet somehow after all these years I'm still on the fringe of things. I don't seem to be able to penetrate beyond a certain point. I want to go deeper, but I cannot. I'm told that I'm good at what I've been doing, and it is that very goodness that binds me. My conditioning is of the beneficent kind, doing good to others, helping the needy, consideration, generosity, and so on. And yet it is binding, like any other conditioning. My problem is to be free, not only of this conditioning, but of all conditioning, and to go beyond. This has become an imperative necessity, not only from hearing the talks that you give, but also from my own observation and experience. I have, for the time being, put aside my welfare work, and whether or not I shall continue with it will be decided later on, says the woman. Krishnamurti asks, why have you not previously asked yourself the reason for all these activities? She replies, it has never before occurred to me to ask myself why I'm in social work. I've always wanted to help and to do good, and it wasn't just empty sentimentality. I have found that the people with whom I have lived are not real, but only masks. It is those who need help that are real. Living with the mask is dull and stupid, but with the others there is struggle, pain. Krishnamurti asks, why do you engage in welfare or in any other kind of work? She replies, well, I suppose it is just to carry on. One must live and act, and my conditioning has been to act as decently as possible. I've never questioned why I do these things, and now I must find out. Before we go any further, let me say that I am a solitary person, though I see many people. I'm alone, and I like it. There is something exhilarating in being alone. Krishnamurti says, to be alone in the highest sense is essential. And yet the aloneness of withdrawal gives a sense of power, of strength, of invulnerability. Such aloneness is isolation. It is an escape, a refuge. But isn't it important to find out why you've never asked yourself the reason for all your supposedly good activities? Shouldn't you inquire into that? She replies, well, yes, let us do so. I think it is the fear of inner solitude that has me do all these things. Krishnamurti replies, why do you use the word fear with regard to inner solitude? Outwardly, you don't mind being alone, but from inner solitude you turn away? Why? Krishnamurti goes on, fear is not an abstraction. It exists only in relationship to something. Fear does not exist by itself. It exists as a word, but it is felt only in contact with something else. What is it that you are afraid of? She replies, of this inner solitude. Krishnamurti says, there is fear of inner solitude only in relation to something else. You cannot be afraid of inner solitude because you've never looked at it. You're measuring it now with what you already know. You know your worth, if one may put it that way, as a social worker, as a mother, as a capable and efficient person, and so on. You know the worth of your outer solitude. So it is in relation to all this that you measure or approach inner solitude. You know what has been, but you don't know what is. The known, looking at the unknown, brings about fear. It is this activity that causes fear. The known, looking at the unknown, brings about fear. It is this activity that causes fear. The woman replies, yes, that is perfectly true. I'm comparing the inner solitude with the things I know through experience. It is these experiences that are causing fear of something that I have not really experienced at all. So then Krishnamurti says, so in truth, your fear is not really of the inner solitude, but the past is afraid of something it doesn't know and has not experienced. The past wants to absorb the new, to make of it an experience. However, can the past, which is you, experience the new, the unknown? The known can experience only that which is of itself. Guy Finley has a quote where he says, this is another reference point to Guy Finley basically reading right from Krishnamurti. Guy Finley has a line where he says, the new can't be known. You know, what's truly new is unknown. And as soon as we learn of it and have experience of it, it's not new anymore. That's the point Krishnamurti is making here. The past wants to absorb the new and make of it an experience that it can know and understand. But the known can only experience that which is like itself. It can never experience the new, the unknown. By giving the unknown a name and by calling it inner solitude, you've only recognized it verbally, and the word is taking the place of experiencing. For the word is the screen of fear, and the term inner solitude is covering the fact, the what is. And that very word and all that you're projecting into it is creating fear. The woman replies, yes, but somehow I don't seem to be able to look at it. Krishnamurti says, let us first understand why we are not capable of looking at the fact and what is preventing our being passively watchful of it. He says, don't attempt to look at it now, but please listen quietly to what is being said. The known, past experience, is trying to absorb what it calls the inner solitude, but it cannot experience it, for it does not know what it is. It knows only the term, but not what is behind the term. The unknown cannot be experienced. You may think or speculate about the unknown or be afraid of it, but thought cannot comprehend it, for thought is the outcome of the known, of experience. As thought cannot know the unknown, it is afraid of it. There will be fear as long as thought desires to experience, to understand the unknown. There will be fear as long as thought desires to understand the unknown. And this is what Guy Finley, but also Michael Ryce was talking about when Michael Ryce says things like, to heal, you got to be out of your mind. You have to die to yourself. You have to die to the old set of thoughts. You have to die to the thoughts that you think about how things should be in order to be in the present moment and able to experience life as it unfolds without bringing the past with you and spreading it out in front of you and trying to make life conform to what has been in the past. If you're going to do that, it's going to be fresh and new and unlike anything you can have thoughts about. The woman asks, well, then what happens? And Krishnamurti interrupts and says, please listen. If you listen rightly, then truth will be the only action. Try and grasp this. If you listen rightly, if you let the truth of what's happening actually in to your energy system and let it act on you, then what you do in response will flow according to all the divine laws, all the natural laws, and things will work out far better than if you're trying to force it because your thought says life should go in a different direction. So Krishnamurti goes on, please listen. If you will listen rightly, then the truth of all of this will be seen, and then truth will be the only action. Whatever thought does with regard to inner solitude is an escape, an avoidance of what is. In avoiding what is, thought creates its own conditioning, which prevents the experiencing of the new, of the unknown. Fear is the only response of thought to the unknown. Thought may call it by different names, but it is still fear. Just see that thought cannot operate upon the unknown. Thought cannot operate upon what is behind the term inner solitude. Only when you see that does what is unfold itself. And it is inexhaustible. It is continuous and never-ending. Now, if one may suggest, leave it alone. You heard it, and let that work as it will. To be still after tilling and sowing is to give birth to creation. This is similar to some of the things we've been reading about how you cannot force this. The flow of life is going to be the flow of life. You can't force it to be other than it is. So, he's asking this woman that he's talking to just spend some time listening, watching as she observes, and he observes these things out loud, that the known and any past experience is always trying to absorb what it calls the inner solitude or whatever challenge is in front of it. However, the known can't experience the new. My sense of myself, my thoughts about how I'm supposed to be acting because I'm a male and I'm a certain age and I have a psychology degree, or my thoughts about that can't ever know anything outside of that self-referential loop, what Guy Finley calls the mechanical level of mind spinning. And yet, there is this ability to step back and watch both the flow of my thoughts and the tightness and tension and what's hitting my senses from the outside, and letting the truth of what is, without my thoughts in the way, the truth of it act on me, and then my actions flow in response, and things always go better when I let that be the case. So this was a little section titled The Fear of Inner Solitude. Sarah, did you intend to unmute?
Yeah, I did. I wanted to share something that I've been going through, but I was just trying to I was actually up all night about it, and I didn't think that. I thought I had actually really worked through it, but then you started reading about the fear of the unknown and death and and I was kind of almost hesitant to share this story because I'm new to the group and it might be a little bit much to spring on people, but it came up again and I thought, oh my gosh, I thought I had worked through this. But if you don't mind, could I tell you, because I don't know if it's actually, should I actually get maybe formal help for it, or maybe a worksheet would be good. I'm not sure, but
well, let's share and we'll see.
Okay, so and it's about last year, on January 22nd. I just want to give a little context to this. When I was growing up, I was the oldest of my siblings, right? So I had to, at a very young age, around 11, I had to take on the role of my mom because she went to work. So I took care of my brother and sister, cooked, cleaned, had to take my little sister everywhere. And so we became like best friends, right? Because she was like my shadow. So that's just a little context to the relationship with my sister and growing up and being that pillar for her. Last year she got pregnant and I was her main support through everything. And I'm in Winnipeg, Canada, and she's in Fort St. John up north in BC. So on January 27th, she went into labor, so I was with her on the phone, and apparently the labor was going good and up until the point where the labor stalled out, and she needed to go into an emergency C-section. So she went into the emergency C-section on that night, and I, at the same time, was in the hospital myself that night because I was pregnant and I was having some bleeding, and while I was waiting for the doctor to come in after the ultrasound, I had this weird feeling that my sister's going to give birth to her first child and I'm going to lose mine. So I was trying to be there for her when the doctor came in and she told me that there's no heartbeat. So the course of action was to just let it play out naturally because I've already started bleeding. So I said, okay, we'll let this play out naturally, which is what I would have preferred to do. But then I went home, and about 10 o'clock that night, I got an emergency call from her partner saying, they killed her. And so I was like, okay, first off, what's going on here? So something went really catastrophic in this C-section, and she didn't stop bleeding. So they used all of the blood in Fort St. John, and they put a balloon in there. So she went in for a second operation. They put a balloon to kind of plug whatever. That wasn't working. She was getting to the point where she was not going to make it. So they called a specialist in. And later we heard that he literally got up from his pajamas and raced to the hospital in his pajamas when we heard later. But he got there, and when he got to my sister, apparently she was in such a mess, they cauterized everything, that his only option, it was a life or limb situation, that his only option was to give her a hysterectomy. And at that time, so he did that because he had to, or she would have died. They were waiting for blood to be flown into Vancouver. Now, with my situation, because I was in such adrenaline that night, and I was booking a flight to go to fly at 6 a.m., so I did not sleep at all at night. And I was in what they call ceaseless prayer. Not for 1 minute did I cease from that prayer. Not 1 single second. And so we didn't know if she was actually going to make it to Vancouver after the hysterectomy, and because the blood had to arrive within 15 minutes, really, or else she wouldn't have had enough to sustain the flight to make it to St. Paul's, which is the hospital that could have handled her care. So my whole system stopped the natural process of passing baby. And what happened was I said to my partner, I said, you know what? This is one of the great loves of my life. And if I'm not there when she wakes up, because they had to completely put her under and they had to ventilate her for the flight. So I was on a flight that 6 a.m. that morning. I arrived at the hospital about 15 minutes after the air vac situated her in. And my mom lives in Vancouver, and my brother, so they all met us at the hospital. And we had to see my sister after all of this, laying the ventilator tube in her, and she was unconscious. So what happened was my brother had an Airbnb rental, and he said we could stay there so that we could take care of Caitlin. So the nurses said, she's not going to be waking up today. You guys go, you get some rest. So we went to the Airbnb, and I told my mom what was happening with me. But it's completely stopped. I stopped bleeding and everything. So I thought, okay, I don't really know what's happening, but I'm going to be here for my sister. So the next morning, we raced to the hospital because the nurses called us that she's going to wake up right away. We can see that she's coming like conscious again. So we raced there, and she woke up. She couldn't really speak or anything, so that took about a day. So we were taking care of her, me and my mom. And what happened was we wanted to wait a day to actually tell her that first off, her baby wasn't here. It was in Fort St. John, so her baby wasn't actually able to come for the flight, and she had no uterus. So the option of another child for her to be pregnant again was off the table. So we waited the next day. Still, my whole system had stopped releasing. And then the following day when we went, we told her about the hysterectomy, and she was devastated, totally devastated. So then what we did was, after my body knew that she was okay and that she had taken time to digest, I could feel my stomach cramping. So I raced over to the Airbnb, and I was in the bathroom, and then what I did was I had to go to the bathroom, and I had a pad on that I had asked the nurse for, and I actually had to deliver my baby in the Airbnb bathroom, and I was hemorrhaging myself. So I felt like I was going to faint, and so I went back to the hospital, and I was hemorrhaging so badly that by the time they got me to the hospital, I was in the waiting room. I felt this absolute total feeling of aloneness because I had nobody there. My mom, she was preoccupied with doing something. She was going out for smoking and all this stuff. She wasn't actually in the room with me, and my partner wasn't there. I couldn't even use my phone because I felt like I was going to go unconscious at any moment. When I mean hemorrhaging, I was hemorrhaging because now my body was releasing it, and I guess the OBGYN came in and she was just throwing clots in the garbage, and I was like, you have to get me through this. I have 2 kids. I have to be able to be okay. She goes, don't worry, Sarah, we'll take you. And within 30 minutes, they had me under in the same hospital that my sister was in. Upstairs, I was downstairs. They did the emergency DNC. But like I said, when they were putting me under anesthesia, I pleaded with the anesthesiologist. I said, you have got to get me through this. I cannot leave this place yet. And there was a real intimate feeling of being alone. Like none of my support was there. Nothing that I could rely on to and fall into the safety of it.
The external stuff.
That's what that's what I mean. I felt the presence of the divine hovering over me. I did feel that, but physically, the physical shock of having like nobody there was so scary. And the fact that I literally did think I was going to die with the amount of blood that I had lost. And then once they fixed me up, I had asked them, I said, how close was this blood situation? And she goes, 3 points. If you were, I guess, at 70, when your blood drops below 70, I don't know the exact numbers, they give you a blood transfusion, but I was at 73. So they hooked up me. They said, we'll give you a bag of iron. Everything looks good. There's no more bleeding whatsoever. We got everything. And so I laid in the bed all night, and I was going through that, and I was all by myself. Nobody came. And I was thinking to myself, my sister's upstairs, and I can't really tell her what's going on with me. So my mom did tell her what happened because she knew I was pregnant. That's why she didn't want me to fly to Fort St. John for her delivery, because it was too early to fly. You don't know what could happen. So she was like, where's Sarah? Where's Sarah? And then my mom had to go up to my sister and tell her. And then I called her. I said, don't worry, Katie. I'm fine. I'm going to come up there and I'm going to help you. So the next day, I was okay, so I went back upstairs, and the following 2 weeks after that, every single day, I would go up to the hospital and I would take care of my sister. I would help her try to express milk because we were saving that all for her to take back to baby. And I was helping her, go to the bathroom and sitting with her all day. And I was just putting a pin in my own situation because, I was trying to be the emotional support for her. And I think people would come and help and kind of relieve us. Like my mom would come every couple of days to help out, and my brother made an appearance a couple of times, and then her partner was there. He ended up getting flown down. So we were all taking turns taking care of her because she couldn't walk, so we had to get her slowly walking. And every night when I would go to the Airbnb, I was by myself, and I would just go into the shower and I would just cry because I was like, and then some nights I would be so not even ready to process it that I would just go to bed and just think, okay, tomorrow I got to get up, I got to go take care of Katie, I've got to go make sure she has everything, we've got to get her well.
So let me have you bring us to today. What's going on that brings us up today that we might support you with?
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I don't know, today, I don't know, when I got back home, I really took 3 days to process it, and I was by myself.
And how long ago did all of these events happen?
Oh, this was last year.
All right.
What's
bringing it up today?
See, that's the thing. I don't know why it's coming up today. Well, it was coming up very heavy last night, and
all right. Did you say it was coming up in a dream?
No, when I was laying down and I was sleeping, and the whole memory was coming up, and I was thinking to myself, did I not process losing baby? Did I not process the fact that my sister almost died and I was in that same situation too? And I was just wondering, how can I best approach this to really, I don't want to be reliving this again and again, and I
Okay,
also want to do honor.
Right, but we don't get a chance to decide if we relive it again or not. What we have a chance to do is decide how we respond if the reliving comes up. And in this work, the primary tool we use for that is called the Reality Management Worksheet.
Okay.
It's sometimes called the Reality Management Wake-Up Sheet.
Okay.
And so it's a tool you can use at any given point when you have a strong emotional experience, or you have a strong or recurring negative thought. Either one of those two give you good access to beginning a worksheet.
Yeah.
So right now, what would be your assessment of the strongest emotion you're aware of, or the strongest recurring negative thought?
Okay, yeah, I guess the strongest emotion would be, I have to do this all on my own.
That's a thought. Perfect. All right.
Okay.
And there's plenty of emotion with it, so we'll use that thought.
Okay.
Now, when you have the thought with the tears that come up that says, I have to do this all on my own, what emotion are you aware of?
Emotion.
Sadness?
It's almost like it's like a
fear?
grief. No, it's like a grief.
All right, so you have grief. So
Yeah.
your emotion is grief, and your thought is, I have to do this all on my own.
Yeah.
Now, in this work, very simply put, when I have a thought that when I pour my mind energy into it, it creates an emotional state, positive or negative.
Yeah.
That thought contains a goal, and if it's a positive emotion that results, it's probably because the goal that I'm holding is getting met. If it's a negative emotion I'm experiencing, it's because the goal I'm holding is not getting met. So in this thought, I have to do this all by myself. What's the goal that's implied there that's not getting met?
I guess the goal that's not getting met is me feeling supported.
Right. I want support. Right.
Yeah.
I want to have physical, obvious, loving, respectful support. Right.
Yeah.
Now, I'm saying these words, loving, obvious, physical. I'm just trying to give you a clue about how you should be looking at which words resonate most deeply for you. And maybe they're the ones I just used, or maybe something else. But what would you say would have to happen for you to be able to feel good during these times where your thought is, I have to do this all by myself, and my emotion is deep grief? What would have to happen for that to get all better?
Well, what I find sometimes is when I actually move into a state of gratitude, because
if you could get there, we'll get there.
Yeah.
Stick with me here. We're trying to do a worksheet process right now. We have 3 of the pieces we need.
Okay.
And I'm just trying to get you to clarify the words you would use to describe the third piece, which is the goal. Right now, you have this thought, I have to do this all by myself, and it brings up such intense grief that you start crying and you can't even speak. When that happens, we encourage people to soften and breathe, and then get clear about what's the goal that's not getting met. What would it take to have this all, well, what would wipe out the need for any worksheet here is if you felt supported and loved and surrounded by your support system. And so we're just trying to get you to get specific about the words you would use for that. The goal that's not getting met is, my goal right now is I want obvious, tangible, loving support.
So it would be would it be to open to more love, be allowing of more love?
No, we're just trying to get you to choose some words. And if you don't have words that bubble up and say, oh, it's this, then we'll make up something and we'll do the process, and then you can revisit it and cycle through changing the words, etc.
Okay.
But the idea is everything works on resonance, in the law of resonance. So if I'm holding energies in me that are from the past and they're sad or they're grief-stricken or they're rage-filled or they're full of ache in my heart space, if I'm holding that energy in me and living my life and it has a certain vibration to it, I can go for weeks or months without that getting resonated by what I'm projecting onto the outside world. And then all of a sudden, I choose an interpretation for something that has the same resonance as this negative emotion that I'm holding, and I place this interpretation on that, and it starts to resonate that. Now here comes all my emotion. Here comes my pain. Here comes my trauma, etc. So you say the words, I had to do it all by myself, and you cry, and you feel crushed. So we understand that you've got the thought that I have to do it all by myself and the emotion of grief, and they're connected by this goal. And the goal is, and we'll just try the one that I'm saying, I want obvious, loving, continuous support, or strong, loving support in my life.
Yeah.
Okay, if that sounds good enough, now I'll ask you to close your eyes and do a little bit of a meditation here. And just soften inside yourself. And inside yourself, say what I'm going to say out loud. I cancel my need to be right. Keep your breath moving. I cancel my need for anyone or anything to change, including myself. I specifically cancel my goal in this situation to have consistent, strong, loving support in my life. I put my conscious, logical mind on the shelf for now, and I ask to be shown the hidden part of my own mind that's actually creating this grief. And then I want you to just breathe and soften and gently keep saying silently inside your own mind that I cancel my need to be right. As you breathe and soften, I cancel my need for anyone or anything to change as I breathe and soften. And just trust that anything that comes into your awareness is going to be part of what you need to see to begin to heal here and move forward. It's all old stuff. It can't hurt you any more than it already has. So just breathe into it and soften and trust. Even if it flashes back to a trauma from your past or what might seem like an innocuous memory from the past, just go there and see what it has to offer you. Keep your breath moving and notice how old you are, where you are, who else is there, and what's happening. And as you do that and you breathe and you soften, stay with it until you feel something shift or fade. You feel that grief getting softer. You feel some heart energy or physical energy in your body somewhere start moving. Or you realize it's just going to spin and go nowhere. And when one of those things happens, take a nice, deep, cleansing breath. Slowly exhale. Then scan your body and notice, what are you feeling now? What's the strongest physical sensation or the strongest emotion you're aware of now?
Well, actually, it feels like the whole back of my heart space, like the back of my chest, just completely dissolved open, and it feels like I can breathe through the back of my body.
Okay.
As if, like, the back, like the whole back side, like I feel a lot more calm and soothed, and I feel like the back of my heart is like it can breathe. I don't know if that makes sense.
That's what doesn't matter if it makes any logical sense. You're just doing beautifully. Then you just describe what you're feeling, and that's great. That's what we want you to do. Now, I would encourage you to think what went through your mind that you could be conscious of that was happening or led to that feeling of being able to breathe out through your back and that softening. What did you notice, if anything, at a conscious level?
Well, actually, I didn't really have any thought. It just...
Okay, that's perfect. That's perfect. So now, just breathe and soften. If you have anything there to write with, make some notes about what you felt, what this experience was like before it has a chance to fly away back into the unconscious. And breathe and soften and just appreciate the shift you've experienced in your physiology.
Yeah, I really feel that shift. I really do.
And just appreciate it. You gave it to yourself. You stepped through this process.
Yeah.
It's the fruit of your own labor. And so just stay with that and make notes about it. And that's your worksheet process. Now, your potential there is to lock this in by just thinking some of the most loving, safe, happy, joyful memories you have from any time in your life and breathe into them. And just kind of strengthen your experience of this memory, physical memory of the joy, the aliveness, the beauty from your past, and just strengthen it and just breathe into it and let that energy vibrate. And then notice how you feel.
Good. I feel really good.
Okay. And to take it to the next level, just make some notes about it and help yourself lock in or stay open to watching your physiology in the next few minutes, the next couple hours. Because when you have a shift like this, often it'll lead to other things. One of the things Dr. Michael Ryce talks about is the vitality meter. And you have this imaginary vitality meter that goes from 0, which would be death, all the way up to 10 or 100, whatever you want to rate it. But in the vitality meter, it's part of a system that's in each of us that will not let us even become aware of something that is too much for us to deal with unless we have the resources for dealing with it. So we'll never become aware of something that we can't handle. We'll have a lot of thoughts about how we can't handle things, but that won't be the truth of it.
Yeah.
So when my vitality is sitting at let's say my vitality is sitting at a level 2 or 3, and I've got a level of trauma or toxin in my system that's at a 6 and a 7. I've got a few big ones from when I was, beaten as a child or whatever that are at 8 or 9. My conscious won't even let me get in touch with them at the level that they need to be. I need to be aware of them to resolve them until my vitality comes up. So what happens is we do a piece of work like this, and then my vitality goes up, and I'm feeling great. And then tomorrow morning I wake up and feel like I got run over by a truck because now my system says, hey, look, Tim he's been living at a level 2, level 3 vitality for so long, he hasn't had any vitality to get rid of these level 4.5 or level 5 traumas and toxins. Now I do some work, my own worksheets, breathing, tapping, eating better, getting good rest. And my vitality comes up to a 6 or a 7, and my system goes, oh, great, we'll let him enjoy that for a few hours, and then we'll clear out this level 5 or 6 toxin, and now I'm down to a level 1. And I wake up tomorrow feeling like I can barely drag myself out of bed. The key, if that happens, is to just breathe and soften and acknowledge this is part of moving stuff out. And if when I start to feel bad, the aches and the pains or the disorientation or the inflammation, when that happens, if I can coach myself to just keep doing more of the right things, the things that help support my system, my energetic system. So it's food, it's water, it's breath work, it's good nutrition, it's acknowledgement of my accomplishments and acknowledgement of the pain. If I just keep the breath moving through that, my vitality will come back up. And I'll go through that up and down for quite a bit, especially in the beginning when I'm doing work, because the lower levels will peel off faster, and I'll go through that roller coaster. But just breathe into this. Congratulations for doing that piece of work.
I really appreciate it, and I think it was really helpful because I hadn't really talked to anyone about it. So I think just having expressed it gave a big portion of the soothingness to it. So I really felt supported.
I would absolutely believe that's a big part of it, right? Being able to give a voice to it, being able to bring it out of the shadows, and prove to yourself that you can survive with this intense life experience coming back into the light of day.
Yes, I'm very proud of myself for being able to do this work today. I'm very proud of myself. Thank you.
You're very welcome and deserving, as we like to say. So just keep the breath moving, and please hydrate.
Yes.
Because, when we have these energies that resonate in through us, there's a tremendous amount of metabolic energy and therefore metabolic waste that our system has been using to keep this stuff hidden and suppressed.
Yeah.
And with something as big as this could be just the beginning of the layers that you need to see as false and, breathe through and let that energy move through you, because both you and your sister went through incredibly intense energy shifts, and you're connected to each other more than you are connected to most other people, and yet we're connected to everyone. So just understand there could be quite a bit more processing to happen, and it can all be pretty much as easy as what you just went through.
Okay.
All right?
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much.
Is this an all right stopping point?
Yeah, I feel much, much better.
All right, excellent. Well, thank you for speaking up and being willing to go through the process. Everyone benefits when that happens, and I will just remind us all that we come from love. We're made of the stuff we call love. We actually are love, and everything else is false. And oddly enough, the more I observe it, the more I realize that every single time life doesn't go the way I think it should, it always works out better than I ever thought it could. Blessings.